Well, and I started gathering my material, which were in blog form. I started blogging about Trengganu 3 years ago, mainly to keep myself amused and mainly to keep as a record of the place where I grew up, where I was born, for my children. So basically, growing up in Terengganu is myself talking to my children. And talking to my children has been very pleasant. It's been very therapeutic for me because the more you remember, the more you recall, the more seems to come to you, which was quite amazing because memories came to you very vividly, not just as something you recall or you recollect, but for me they were very, very vivid. I could remember detail, I could remember color, smells, things, objects, people. It's memory again. Memory is not just sounds and smells, it's your emotion. There's memory, there's recollection, and there's visualization, there's sonorization. Sonorization is your voice. You hear in your past not just your own voice, but other people's voices too. And they come to you very, very vividly. I could remember my father's voice. I could remember my own. I could remember my own feelings. I could remember the color of words. Now, words are just not words. Words have color, it's got smell, it's got rhythm. So one of the main concerns that I had when I was writing the book was the rhythm of words, how words sound in my head, because every word to me has a sound. Now, this comes back to you in a very interesting way, because as children, we learn the meaning of words only after we've learned the rhythms. You learn the rhythm of words first, the sounds, and then you discover the meanings of those sounds. This is why we are so fond of our nursery rhymes. Now, nursery rhymes are nothing but rhythms. If you go back to your nursery rhymes, they're mostly nonsensical, but they give you nice rhythms. Trengganu nursery rhymes are even more so, if you recall from your Trengganu days. I've got a few in the book. I do not know what they mean, but they have nice rhythm in it. Mak min tonjol beranak dalam botol tiba tenggelam terus masuk gol. These are nonsensical words. But as children, you remember these things very well. They strike a chord in you. Now, this is the importance of rhythm. When I write the book, I go for the rhythm of the words, because I think this gels very well with the memories of my past, because the past had rhythm too. Now, many people have written to me since I started blogging to say that, yes, this is true, this is what I recall myself. No, this is not so, maybe you got it wrong, maybe it was another way. And one of my biggest critics was my brother. My brother used to write to me and say, no, it's wrong. One of the things he wrote about was the man who made the beluda. I put two men together into one person, a composite character, though I didn't intend to do so. He said, no, these were two persons. One was Pak Mat Snani, another one was Pak Mat Nobat, the man who reinvented the Nobat in Trengganu. You're from Trengganu. You seem to to be nodding your head in agreement. Yes. Where are you from? Which part of Trengganu? Which part? Which place? Tok Lam. Yes, I know Tok Lam very well. Yeah, it's not far from Tanjung where I lived. So Pak Mat Nobat and Pak Mat Snani were two different persons. So my brother wrote to me and said, please correct it. I said, no, I'm going to keep them as keep him as he is. That's how I perceived him when I tried to recall him, and he'll stay. And many other things I'd had to do some research on. For instance, on the history of Trengganu, I had to look up. On the history of Istana Kolam, I had to read up. But the rest were just memory. Now, memory is a wonderful thing. Memory is a wonderful thing. The Portuguese have a word for it, saudades. Saudades is a word which means memory, but it isn't memory. The memory that's contained in saudades need not be true. Memories are made up sometimes. It shows again how people need memory. They need to recall and remember. They need a past. Now, which is relevant now, because when I went back to Trengganu, this is what I've been telling them. Do not destroy your past. Keep your past intact, build on it, but never demolish it in your mind or in its physical self. Because this is important to you. Without your past, you are nothing. Without memory, you are a non-person. If you do not know who you are, you do not know where you're going to. If you do not know who you are, you have no sense of self. So in a way, my writing of the book is my knowing who I am. Again, my recollection of where I came from, my recollection of who I was then and who I am now, why I am now, what made me so. And I was talking mostly to my children. And I was not surprised, therefore, when many people wrote to me and said, your book is interesting because you made it sound as if you were talking to me. And I say, why not? Because I was talking to my children. And you are my children as a reader. Forgive me, Kana, we are about the same age. But so that again is a voice. Every writer needs a voice. I think I found my voice for the book in speaking to my... A big hand, please, to Datuk Samad. My old friend, Datuk Samad Said, who's a Sastrawan Negara. It's very kind of you to turn out. Thank you very much. As I was saying, every writer needs a voice. It's very difficult to find a voice. But once you found it, hold on to it, which is what I did when I felt I should be talking to my children. And that's the voice I adopted. I spoke to my children, and thank God for it. Many people thought I was speaking to them too. So in other words, I may have, in a little way, succeeded. Was it difficult to write the book? I was asked a few minutes ago by a reporter. Yes and no. This is actually my second book. The first book was very, very difficult. The book I wrote about Selangor was very, very difficult because, firstly, psychologically, I'd never written a book. I'd written journalism, I'd written features, but never a book. Hence, it came with all sorts of baggage. What kind of a book is it going to be? Is it going to be successful? Is it going to be a good book or a bad book? So these things always bear on you in your mind when you're writing your first book. So my training in journalism also stood in the way of it, because in journalism, it's a different discipline. When you write a news story, you are so concerned about the first paragraph, nothing else matters. It's the jam of it. You want the jam to be in the first paragraph, the who's and the where's and the what's and the why's and the when and so on, that you are obsessed by it. And then you start writing your story and it flows. So when you write a book, if you have been a journalist, you tend to put the same kind of thinking into it. You want your first sentence to gel. Well, some writers do that. If you read Anthony Burgess, you'll find that one of the most memorable paragraphs he'd written was in Earthly Powers, where he said, on the afternoon of my 80th birthday, I was in bed with my catamite when my servant Abdul came and said, the Archbishop wants to see you. Now, this is a wonderful first paragraph. I think it's one of the best paragraphs ever written in the history of literature. But that's Burgess. I'm no Burgess. I have to struggle hard. If you read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, he is a master of the first paragraph, but more. He is a master of evoking meaning and emotion and rhythm in words. If you read his book, 100 Years of Solitude, you'll remember that the first sentence was a man in front of the firing squad thinking not of death, but of the day when his father took him to discover ice. Now, isn't that wonderful? You're sitting in front of the firing squad, and you think of the day when your father took you to discover ice. Why discover ice? Well, you have to read the book. Now, in his other book, Love in Times of Cholera, to the person in the book, the smell of bitter almond always reminds him of unrequited love. Now, the smell and the memory is exactly what I've been talking about. Words have smell. You yourself, when you're reading the book, you tend to have this smell wafting in your head, maybe in front of you even. And then it brings you to another thing, unrequited love. You may have had the same experience, you may not have the same experience, but you would want to know what it's all about. Now take another person, Murakami. Haruki Murakami is a master of banality. He writes about plain, everyday things in a way that makes you interested in it. He was sitting in the back of his house in the garden, looking across to the other side of the fence. There was a girl sitting there, and the sun was shining, the wind was blowing softly. He was sitting down with nothing in his mind. He was doing nothing, and yet it's so captivating. This is the power of word. Now, to me, the power of word is in rhythm. It's in rhythm. If you read my book, there's rhythm in every sentence. In many instances, I failed, because a book is never done. When you finish a book, there are always places that you feel you can do better. There are always things you feel you can say in a different way. A book to an author is never finished. But I suppose when you finish a book, you stop that one and go to another one. Datuk Samad will tell you that is true, I think. Probably. I don't know, maybe you do it in a different way. So having said that, I think I've said enough. I've spoken to students, and I shall not nag you the way I nag to them. So I think you've come here for better things. Perhaps there's food waiting for you outside. So I'll just stop there. And if you'd like to ask me anything, I'll be happy to answer if I can. Otherwise, I'll pass it on to my more distinguished colleague who will answer them for you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Yeah.